Welcome to this preseason media edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. I'm Carl James. On Friday, January 27th, 2023, members of the media met with members of the Indiana University baseball program. This included sophomore third baseman Josh Pyne, graduate student shortstop Phillip Glasser, and head coach Jeff Mercer.
Josh, after a pretty productive freshman year, what have you been working most on during the offseason?
Summer comes around, you gotta watch video, find out your weaknesses. You kind of have an idea. Just kind of turn those weaknesses into strengths for the next season. Try to improve for the team. Just become a better player overall.
What were some of those weaknesses?
Certain pitches. Not gonna exactly say which ones they are, but certain pitches that I struggled with at the plate. Every hitter has hot zones, and so trying to get out of my comfort zone and be uncomfortable in training, it transfers over to the game.
Josh, you're part of a pretty talented freshman class from last year that's now going into their second year. What are some expectations for you guys so far?
Expectation-wise for us is to just help the team win a Big Ten championship, right? We all have the same goal. We're all on the same mission. That's what I love about this year's team. We all have the same vision. So just try to get the team to win a Big Ten championship. That's the goal.
You guys return a lot of the same bats to the lineup this year. You guys swung it pretty well last year. Is there expected jump in that category this year?
I think that we're a pretty consistent offense, and we got a lot of experience. We got a lot of older guys like Phillip Glasser, great role model, great leader for the team. There's a lot of them. So we got a lot of playing experience last year, especially with my class and the guys that had already played college baseball. So looking to be pretty consistent at the plate this year, continue to put up runs, and help the pitching staff win some games.
Because the season's approaching pretty quickly now. What's kind of the focus over the next couple of weeks just to prepare for the season?
Yeah, it's getting down to kind of the fundamental things, working on first and third plays, bunt defenses, trying to incorporate those little things that mean a lot whenever the season comes around to help win games. One-run games are a big thing, so just try to be sound in the field and then swing the ball, of course.
Practice is just starting to get going. The season around the corner. Last year, you guys came in a lot of new faces on the field, but you're going to be in an infield with a lot of returning guys. What's sort of been like the fun getting back into it with them?
Yeah, it's been awesome. We're able to work on different things that we couldn't work on last year. Last year was more so how do I play with this guy? Never played with him, trying to feel out on the field with him. Now we're able to work on different things. Communicating in the infield, certain balls that other people can go get. So it's been a lot of fun.
Couple warm weather trips early this season. How eager are you guys to just be able to get out somewhere where it's not, freezing cold to play baseball?
Sorry about that.
Just how eager are you guys to get out down to some warm weather and start playing against some other teams?
Yeah, it's super exciting going down south for the first couple weekends. It's a league competition. It's going to be nice weather, so it's super exciting to jump the gun, play some really good teams, see where we stack up, see where we need to improve, what we do really well. So it's going to be a really good learning point for us.
After spending a few months hitting against this new crop of pitchers, what are your thoughts of that group?
I think we have a really sound pitching staff this year. Dustin Glant has done an outstanding job with the pitching staff this year. We got a lot of new arms on the mound, and they've been tough to hit against. And so I feel like that makes us a better team. Pitching staff that's tough to hit against makes us better hitters, right? We got a good group of hitters, so it makes them have to perform better on the mound. So we're pushing each other every day, and it's making us a better team as a whole.
You had one of the best freshman seasons anybody can ever have. What can you do to get even better, and improve despite how good you were last year?
Yeah, every player has weaknesses, and towards the end of the year, other teams started picking up on mine. So try to limit those down, try to turn those weaknesses into strengths, right, and do whatever I can to help the team win game by game.
You mentioned the pitching staff earlier. What were some of those arms so far that have kind of stuck out in winter ball?
A couple of the transfer guys that have really stuck out to me are Luke Sinnard and Seti. Those are the two guys that I really feel like they kind of took charge when they got here. They're vocal and they have a presence on the mound, which is a really big deal for this team.
Has Coach Mercer given you, any more additional responsibilities in terms of being a leader now that it's your sophomore season after having a big freshman year?
Yeah, that's one thing Coach Mercer does for the team is he kind of leaves the locker room and the dugout to us, and we got to figure it out. And I love that because it makes us mature as a team. We got a bond. It's a brotherhood, right? So he kind of stays out of that stuff, and he doesn't really appoint leaders, appoint certain players to lead. We figure that out on our own, and we all communicate with each other.
Last year, you mentioned there was somewhat of a learning curve after having new talent to play around with. this year coming into year 2, how do you feel with team chemistry helping you play?
No, I feel like it's been a really big part of the fall coming into the winter. Is this team is really, really tight, right? It's my brothers. I would die for anyone on this team, and I want to go out there and win every single game, do everything that I can to win a Big Ten championship with this team, right? I think this is a group of guys that can do that, and I think we can do something special this year.
We'll take 2 more.
How have you kind of seen the freshmen come in and adapt to the programs?
Outstanding freshman class. They come in eager to learn. They're really, really good kids. They listen to the older guys that have a lot of experience, and they're a great group of ball players.
You missed part of last season with an injury, if I remember correctly. How do you plan to stay fully healthy this year and try to stay on the field, even though you can't always control that? How do you plan to stay healthy?
Right, you have injuries, obviously you can control, and some you can't. And fortunately, a ball hit my finger and it broke my throwing hand. So, unfortunately, that was just a freak accident. So things like that you can't really control throughout a year, but just making sure you eat, your nutrition's right, your sleep's right, do everything you can for your body, in order to have, a very healthy year.
Who would you say is the player that you've been sort of working the most with in the middle infield?
Evan Goforth. He's obviously played when I was hurt, and he's doing a great job. We built a lot of chemistry together over the fall and winter, and that's a big part of being a really good middle infielder is knowing your other counterpart. Because double plays are game changers.
We saw you kind of move around in the lineup last year. Do you have a set spot that you're going to reside in this year, or is it still going to change a bit?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what. Obviously, Coach Mercer fills out the lineup card, so we'll see there.
You're a 5th-year senior now. What's kind of second year on IU? What do you kind of see as your role as a leader on the team?
Just obviously play a lot of baseball games. Just kind of teaching guys, what I learned. Sometimes you don't have to go through the hard stuff as a younger guy if you listen to an older guy that went through it. So just learning, taking experience and everything, and just applying that to the younger guys.
What have been the 2-3 couple areas that you think you've been trying to improve on your game the most this offseason?
Obviously my speed, and then, my range in the infield, and then on top of that, just hitting for more power.
Josh just mentioned how much he thinks it's harder to hit the pitchers in practice, that they've much improved from last year, which is obviously the struggle of the team. Have you noticed the same thing trying to hit in practice?
Yeah, super. The one thing I really like about our pitching staff is all those guys are just super competitive. They're not scared to attack, and they really challenge us as an offense, every week when we face them.
With you being a senior, but also being a transfer as well, have you sort of found yourself helping the other transfers that have come in and sort of adjusting?
Yeah, obviously when you transfer, it's totally different because you go to a whole new campus, you don't really know anyone, and then obviously it can be a lot. So just helping those guys just get acclimated the best they can. Obviously it's tough, but I think with the transfers we had last year and then the new transfers that came in this year, we blended really well.
Just holistically, how much more comfortable are you in your second year in Bloomington here?
Yeah, super more comfortable. Obviously, the coaching staff a lot better, and then obviously the guys, we return a lot of position players, and you don't really know them at first, but after you go through a whole year with them, you kind of know who they are as a person. And that's the one thing Josh was talking about, how it's super exciting, knowing that, we went through together, we know the type of players, we are, and so it's just made this year a lot better.
Coach Mercer has mentioned an importance of working with the pitchers, particularly on holding runners on second. Can you kind of talk about what your role has been in that?
Yeah, obviously, as a middle infielder, you have to be, you have to work really hard in order to make sure that runner doesn't go to third. Obviously, with our looks and everything, it's kind of our responsibility to help the pitcher and keep the runner closer to second.
What facet of this team are you most excited to see come start of the season?
Facet? I'm not sure a specific facet. I'm just really excited to see how we're just going to go down and compete, on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively, and obviously the pitching side. I think that's the one thing that, we had last year. We never really gave up throughout, no matter what the score was, and we carry that same energy this year with the experience. It's going to be something really to look forward to.
I guess just what's been the biggest area of focus in these next couple of weeks as the season starts to roll around?
Right, so the fall and winter, you kind of work on things to make you a better ball player, and now we kind of move into more of the competitive side. So practice-wise, just getting those environments, getting as many live reps as we can, and then obviously working on first and third plays, and those little things that can cost you a 4-3 ball game or a close ball game.
We talked a lot about communication and chemistry today. What parts of the game do you guys see that part of your team elevating for this season?
Yeah, I think, obviously offensively and defensively, just being able to talk to each other more often. Obviously, build a relationship throughout last year with each other, and obviously the second year's a lot better. So being able to communicate with guys, know how they talk, know how they, handle their ups and downs throughout the season, super important.
Got time for two more?
You guys had that deep Big Ten tournament run last year. How can you guys kind of carry that momentum over into the play this year?
Yeah, that was obviously super exciting last year, knowing that we can go, make a run like that with the team we had last year, and just instilling that confidence in those guys that we were good enough last year, we're a lot better team this year, that we can go compete with anyone. And just on that end, I agree.
You guys opened last season at an ACC opponent and then playing in the Round Rock Classic. You guys have, again, high-level competition on the road this year. What do you feel you guys learned from last season to start the year against that high-level opponents to take into this year?
Yeah, obviously you learn how to, first game, it's really no, feeling into anything. It's kind of you go right into it against a great opponent. I think the biggest thing we learned last year was, how to deal with crowd noise. Obviously playing on the road's tough, and just obviously learning the first two series are very important, but it's also an opportunity to see where you really are. And obviously you want to play your best baseball towards the end of the year. So going out, playing good competition like that tells you exactly where your team is and what you need to improve on throughout the next 50-plus games.
Phillip and Josh, you mentioned some of the transfer pitchers. Have you guys set the rotation yet for this year?
We have not. I would say Ty Bothwell returning as a guy that's thrown a lot of innings for us is really good. So I would imagine Ty is kind of towards the front of that rotation, whether it's on Friday or Saturday. Luke Simard has been really good. Gabe Levy and Seti Manasseh has been really good. Ben Seiler. So those guys have kind of taken a step forward. But there's, the exciting thing for us when you have kind of a couple of years of those classes back-to-back here is there's some young guys in there too that have really kind of taken a step forward. Ryan Kraft has really taken a big step forward. Luke Hayden has taken a big step forward. So, you look at kind of Ty Bothwell, it's either a Friday or Saturday component, and then you kind of figure out the rest here these last several weeks. And a little bit out of necessity at times last year, we would kind of TBD on Sunday. And you kind of get in those situations, not because you want to, but you get through it and you realize, hey, I kind of like that. You kind of like having everybody available, to win on a Friday and a Saturday, and you make a decision on Sunday or Tuesday. And so I think we may follow a similar formula to that. If someone really cements himself as a Sunday guy, then you take it. But I think the next couple of weeks we kind of figure out where we're at. But Ty certainly earned the right to be in that conversation up front.
Both Josh and Phillip mentioned that the pitching, sticking with that, has been harder to hit in practice. Yeah. Obviously, the pitching was your weak spot last year. Do you think the freshmen and transfers are going to make the pitching staff much improved this year? And have you noticed the same thing?
Yeah, I think anytime that you have that second year in the system, right? I think with as those pitchers transition, they grow up a little bit. They're a little bit older, they're a little more developed. But also, you've got the ability for those guys to face a really good offense every day. I think that's an undervalued and understated part of it. Is you look at our offense last year, we ended up being good through the course of the season, but they weren't a finished product in the fall and the winter, and maybe you don't get as good of a look on your pitchers as you would if you had that offense already that was already rolling. So our offense right now has played really well. It's played well through the fall and through the winter, and so they've given us a better look and a better feel for what we have on the mound. And so then when you're designing your pitch packages and when you're shaping pitches and when you're moving pitches, and you have a better idea because you have a really good product to face every day. And so I think that's why I don't just say haphazardly that I think we're better on the mound. I think we're better on the mound because you're in the second year of Coach Glant's tenure, and that helps tremendously to be having a year-on-year belt with those guys. I think when you have an offense to go and play against every day that's good, I think that gives you a lot more feedback, and then you can make correct adjustments in kind of in transition and in flight. That helps a ton. And then you've got 2 or 3 classes there in a row that are really talented. And so as you begin to build the base and build the organization that way, talent still reigns supreme. You still have to have talented players. You still have to be able to recruit at a high level, and we have. And so having those guys in there gives you the depth and variety that we just didn't have last year. We just didn't have the depth that we do right now, where you could legitimately look at it and say you have 13, 14, 15 arms that you could go out there on the weekend and feel comfortable, that can go out there and compete. So I think when you put those things together, I think it does give you a much more optimistic view of how we should be on the mound.
Sticking with that theme of the offense, you guys return a lot of the production and consistency from last year. Is there a way that you guys can take that to the next level this year?
Well, I think you want to continue to do the things that we did really well, which is we essentially got people into the strike zone. When we got them into the strike zone, we didn't swing and miss, right? You hit the ball hard in the strike zone. We would take our walks. Our base percentage was really good. We didn't whiff. Our power production was good, but you would think with just the physical maturation of a predominantly freshman and sophomore lineup that's now sophomores and juniors, if you continue to follow the same principles, don't expand the zone, and when a guy gets in the zone, you don't swing and miss, that just through sheer physicality, you would expect just probably some power production to continue to just trend upward. That would make sense with our age. I'd like us to be able to continue to be as aggressive as possible on the bases without being haphazard. And we do have enough team speed. We are athletic enough to really push the tempo on the bases. You know, what Bobby Whalen did last year on the bases, we would like to continue to incorporate and have more guys that are capable of doing that. We should be able to run the bases and steal bags and as much as anything is create to divert a pitcher's attention away from just the play. So whether it's a stolen base, whether it's the first to third, second to home, where we split a guy's attention, and that's through the thread of running and creating tempo. So I would say that the natural progression as an offense as it matures would be an increase in power production. Just nothing, we haven't changed anything. You just get in the weight room, right? You gain 20 pounds of weight in the off season, you keep getting stronger. And then as guys get more and more comfortable in this kind of the base stealing and running, that we would like to continue to run as much as possible without forcing the issue and running into outs, because we should have a depth of offense that we can not have to force those things. We don't want to waste outs. And I would say lastly is we have more depth offensively, where you add Tyler Cerny and AJ Shepard and Devin Taylor and Joey Brinstruck. You add these guys to the mix now, is you're adding real offensive firepower and your depth to where we'd like to be able to do, if given the opportunity, is to use matchup if you can, right? Now sometimes you have guys that they're in there regardless, right? But you should be able to match guys up. We should be able to give guys days off. Josh Pyne played on one leg for the last third of the season last year. Can we get him out of there and get somebody else in there? So you can keep those guys healthy. So hopefully through the depth of the roster, you keep guys healthy, but also put guys in the right situations, in the right matchups. If you just know a guy can't do something, but you don't have a realistic alternative, then you're stuck with him doing that and not successfully. So get him out, get somebody else in. So hopefully we can do that. I would say kind of those main 3 bullet points are the next logical progression for the offense.
Coach, in terms of depth, is there someone that could potentially be going under our radar that you see in practice could be a significant piece of y'all's team?
Some of those young guys are really good. Devin Taylor's a really good player. Tyler Cerny's a really good player. You look at kind of that outfield group. Morgan Copley coming back off of a broken hamate. So you've got Hunter and Bobby Whalen and Carter Matson, Morgan Copley. And those guys, there's going to be somebody that was didn't play as much, whether the injury or beforehand or not, that's going to have an opportunity to really push. And then those young guys are really, really talented. Those are top 100 recruits in the country, right? So when you have those guys that are coming in and really pushing, a lot of it depends on opportunity and obviously injuries and how that all kind of works its way out. But yeah, there's a couple of guys in there that, and it's a good thing, right? Where you've recruited well enough, you develop well enough to where you have competition, and you look up. You could look up after a month. Hunter Jesse, I use this story affectionately because I'm really proud of Hunter. Hunter wasn't, obviously an option beginning of the year last year. Wasn't a primary option for us. In the last 6 weeks of the season, there wasn't a better hitter in the league. So when you have the depth on the team, you can have a couple of those guys. I would say those 3 or 4 guys could make a run at it. But there's also a couple other guys in there too that are talented as well. So it's an exciting group to be with every day.
When you have so many guys that were successful as freshmen, how have you challenged them to kind of not be satisfied or think that what they did their freshman year is always going to translate sophomore year? How have you challenged those guys to continue to improve?
I think the reason that they have success in the first place is we have to remind everyone, right, all of us, that how we got there initially is how we're going to continue to get there. And so as we kind of go through that second year of it, it's just a general reminder that, hey, we got here for a particular reason. Let's make sure we don't deviate from that. But really the best thing you can do for a player with anybody is to provide competition. And so to continue to recruit really good players, continue to coach all the players, so that if somebody does feel, and these guys don't, they're great, they're from great families, they don't rest, they don't kind of take the foot off the gas. But if you ever did, you need to be able to look left and look right and legitimately feel kind of the pressure of, I'm still fighting for my job every day, and I have to go out and compete. And I do legitimately look at every position on the field. Is we have a guy that can go out there and play, maybe opening day, and there's 6 or 8, 9 guys on the bench that could go in there and push those guys every day, be as good or better. And the season will obviously tell how that goes. But I think competition continues to push everybody. And that's what, as a coach, you have to continue to do is to recruit and to develop, coach every player really hard to allow that competition to pull through. I think the character and the integrity of the kids is such that you don't have to worry about it much, but it's still human nature, right? So human nature to be confident, and you got to make sure that you don't kind of slip into that kind of that gray area.
On a different note, you mentioned you were at the women's game last night. That's a two-part question. One is, how much fun was it to be there? And Coach Moore has mentioned kind of 24 sports, one true family. And I saw that last night. I saw Joey Mayer and Ngumbale from the soccer team. Your team was there. It was mentioned Trace, Jackson Davis, and Jordan Geronimo were there. So seeing everybody support each other is, from the different IU athletes, how great is that to see that? And then also with Coach Morin, how much do you look to her to try to build a program like she has?
Yeah. So first, we had an awesome time. My son Grady absolutely loved it. My wife loved it. My wife played college sports. And so we've watched a lot of the women's basketball games and we've cheered. And we kind of talked about it last week. If we were going to go to a game before our season starts, this would be a really good one to go to. So we all wanted to go, and we had a great time. Bedtime was coming up, so we had to leave at halftime, but we had the best time in the world. I think it's really exciting and very telling. Like I always tell our guys, the people of Indiana, the athletic department at Indiana, they want so badly to cheer for Indiana sports teams. They want so badly to cheer for the women's basketball team or the wrestling team or the baseball team. If you'll play hard, if you play with passion, and you go out and be successful, the people will come in droves. They'll want to come. They want to cheer. They'll fill the crowd. They just want somebody to cheer for. And that you're seeing that last night. And the same thing in the athletic department. Everybody in the department, they're so supportive, they're so kind, they want to help any way they can. And so you see all those people out there because the women's basketball team is an absolute power right now. They're a force. And so everyone's so excited and so proud, and we want to be supportive of them and encourage them the best way that we can. And actually, Coach Moore, when I was on my interview, she actually was the coach that I met with. And so I got a chance to kind of behind the scenes to sit with her and talk and ask questions. And she gave me really, really good advice about program building. And anytime that you're transitioning into a new program, there's a lot of new facets to learn. But one of the things that she, it was our philosophies mirrored each other. Was talking about building a program and not just building a team every year, but to look into the future and to build on the right people and the right personalities and the right fundamentals and the aspects of looking at it over a long haul. And how do you invest into those things initially to make sure that the long haul of the program is healthy? And I remember having that initial conversation in her office 4 or 5 years ago now. And we really kind of hit it off in that conversation. I was very, very appreciative of her advice during those times. And it all kind of worked out where I ended up here. And she's done exactly what she said she was going to do, right? From have that conversation initially to where they are now. I mean, she followed the blueprint directly, and they've ended up right where they wanted to be at. So it does give you a lot of, you get excited thinking about it, knowing then what she was doing and seeing it now, and then trying to copy in a lot of ways how you build a roster, how you manage a roster, and making sure that you're working your way into the health of the overall team. And we're all super excited for her and for the team, and I hope they continue their success. I'm sure they will.
Phillip was mentioning he was taking a lot of reps in the middle infield with Evan Goforth, the CA guy that you see taking a lot of reps at secondary.
Yeah, Evan's a terrific player. Evan could really play short for us this year. He's athletic enough, has a good enough arm. He's rangy enough to do those things. But yeah, he'll be somewhere in the middle. Really, the two of them and Tyler Cerny. Tyler Cerny's top 100 guy, like a 6'3", could really rangy, true shortstop tendencies, abilities. So those three guys there in the middle for those two spots, I would imagine. But I would say Evan will be in there consistently, and then I would say Tyler Cerny's in there consistently as well.
You spoke about matching guys up. Could some of this happen like later within a game?
Yes. Yeah. When you start talking about left on left, if the numbers don't make sense, or even sometimes you'll see some guys like left on right for whatever reason, the way a guy moves, it doesn't not a good matchup. And so there's a couple guys that we have in my mind that are pretty significant candidates for those matchup things. And what I like too is we also have the depth defensively to make sure that we're in the right spots at the right time. So I would imagine that you'll see, I don't want to say significant movement within the course of a game, but there will be enough of it within the course of a game that it will hopefully make a difference statistically, kind of both offensively and then defensively as well. And I would say this too, having Brock Tibbetts back healthy and him being able to catch also really helps that as well, where you can have some flex in the game, kind of like we did with Brock early last year, and then obviously we couldn't do that once he had the injury. But yeah, we'll try really hard to make sure that we match those guys up. We just have we've got 2 or 3 outfielders. Sam Yerson, there's not a better defensive outfielder in college baseball, and I don't care. Zach Weatherford won the National Gold Glove, and so I've seen what it looks like. There's not a better defender than Sam Yerson. If he's not starting, he needs to be in the game at some point to do what he does better than anybody. And there's several different instances that we could use like that too.
Take 2 more.
How great is it I saw that they finally passed the third assistant coach that are no longer volunteers. How happy are you that that's finally gone through?
Yeah, that's a big day for college baseball. Really just the overall place of college baseball. And you're just excited for and I know everyone's excited for the coaches, they are, but I think the industry is excited for the players in many ways, because you're going to be able to see coaches settle in and stay at a place. And when a player comes to a school, and they come to a place like Indiana, obviously it's a great education, it's a great university, it's a great experience, but there's also a lot of it they're coming to play for the coaches that they're committed to come and play for. That's a big part of this. And because of the way the volunteer coach has been in the past, that position has been such a revolving door across college baseball. So you have players that are coming in to play for certain guys, and they're involved in the recruiting process. If the volunteer coach is my outfield coach or my hitting coach, and it changes every 2 years, and that's just a lot harder on the athletes when they're not receiving the instruction, not receiving the care. And right now you're recruiting from 8th grade to graduate transfers, like all at the same time. There's just only so many hours in the day. And so the athletes are the ones that get shortchanged when you're recruiting and doing these things, and then your volunteer position is turning over so much. So this adjustment allows volunteers to hopefully be compensated, or at least insurance, something that allows them to be stable, and then to provide the student athletes the experience that they signed up for when they originally came. I think on the inside of the industry, that's what we've talked about as kind of as coaching groups, and the athletes being really excited about. Those guys should be compensated, certainly, but at the same time, the athletes will really benefit from this tremendously.
And then thoughts on Scott rolling in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's an awesome day. It's such an awesome, I would say this, Scott's a very deserved player, most certainly. But I think it really was a testament to is being a great teammate and being selfless and putting others before yourself. He is a great player, but there's so much more to him than just his on-field production. I think that's what you heard loud and clear. Everyone that talked about him, everyone was talking to him, all the interviews, all the people, it was just so much more than the player. And so one of the really good guys in the history of baseball was able to make it into the Hall of Fame because he's a great player, but just as importantly, he's a great person. He's incredibly well respected. So as a friend, I was just really, really happy for him.
What was the response like when you heard the news? Were you with teammates, or were you texting him, or just what was sort of?
Honestly, we had just finished practice, and I don't have my phone out there typically during practice, but as soon as we finished up, I pulled it up, and I actually saw the Cardinals tweet, congratulations, like 29 seconds ago, congratulations to Scott Moore making Hall of Fame. So I knew he was going to be super busy, so I waited till 10 or 11 o'clock that night and just said, congratulations. and he texted him right back. And so he's got a million things going on, and he needs to go do those things. But I just, as a friend, I just was so happy for him. And one time, congratulations. And, I was really cool seeing the video of him telling his parents. I think that was what just really struck me emotionally is we forget, they're on national television. There's big, strong, men and women that are these incredible athletes, but they're still playing a game that their mom and dad took them to T-ball at one point, and in their mom and dad's eyes, they're still that 9-year-old kid out there playing, and it just brings you back to when your mom and dad took you to play ball. For our kids, when they're just it was a really cool moment to watch Scott have that with his mom and dad, and one that, what is it, 1% of people that ever play baseball get to share that moment. So really cool.
That concludes this preseason media availability edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. See you at the BART.